Welcome, everybody. It is me. It is the Cyber Warrior. This is Cyber Warrior Studios, and I know you are all here for another amazing episode of what? Security Happy Hour. That's right. We got a big show planned. We got a newcomer to the industry coming on, because you know how I do. This show is all about bringing fresh faces in, people you've never seen before, people you've never heard from, and people trying to make a name for themselves. So I promise you, if you give me about 10 seconds, we're going to bring them on, and we're going to have an amazing show. You just got to bear with me, so I'll be right back. And we're back. Like I said, 10 seconds. That's all it takes. But with me this evening, I have the one and only Micaela. And I'm not going to butcher that name, so I'm going to let it go. But anywho, thank you for joining me this evening, Micaela. How you doing today?
I'm great. How are you?
You know what? I can't lie. I've been on PTO since last Wednesday, so about a week and a half. I'm doing pretty good. I really am.
Sounds like a dream.
But anyways, as we get started, the first question I ask anybody coming onto this show is, what got you interested in cyber? Like, what made you kind of make that transition or get into it or choose to go for it? So what brought you to us, to this family?
All right. So I went to a little university called Mercer University in Georgia. And when I entered college, I graduated in 2020, COVID. Baby. So I entered college that year. I had no clue cybersecurity was even a career pathway. I actually entered college pre-medicine. I discovered I hate blood, don't like looking at it, don't like seeing it. So I told myself it's time to switch gears. And my parents have been in the IT industry for 20 years. And after some intro classes here and there, my first semester, I discovered principles of cybersecurity. It was one of the first IT classes I took at Mercer, and a really big inspiration was the professor teaching it, and really got me going into the industry and pushed me in there.
Yeah, the crazy part is the effect that professors and teachers and things like that can have when done right. There's just like any job, just like any career field or anything like that. You can have those that push you away, right? You have a bad experience and you're just like, I don't want to do this. But then you have those ones that really feed into your interests and get you really intrigued by whatever it is you're trying to learn. And so to have a school do that for you is phenomenal. So first and foremost, so you are currently an intern, am I correct?
Yes, I am.
So which means you're coming straight out of college. Because if I recall correctly, you just graduated with a degree in cybersecurity.
Yes, sir, I did.
All right. So with that, the courses they taught, how do you think they prepared you for the field itself? And I'm not going to speak to how long you've been an intern. I don't know. But how do you think it's prepared you for the industry?
So I think, as everyone on this show is aware, cybersecurity is a very young field, a very young industry. So the major itself at Mercer was very new. I think it was only a year old when I found it. They made it maybe in 2019, 2018. So it's still a work in progress, but I'd say it really prepared me on the governance side of things. We touched a lot of that in the major itself and through the courses. They kind of made us, as cybersecurity majors, dip our toes into different disciplines. So we learned a little programming, we learned a little IoT, so Internet of Things, cloud security, SCADA system security, legacy system security. But I think, as what I heard, is they're moving towards a more technical pathway in the cybersecurity major. So that'll go into, I had some peers who did data structures, programming, to maybe like they self-learned in Python, because our programming course only touched on Java. So it's a very working and dynamic major as of right now, but I think it really prepared me a lot conceptually. But as an intern, I'm really excited to dive more into the technical side of things.
Yeah, because from my experience, you learn more by getting your hands on the technology, whether or even like you said, it dealt more in governance. You got a little bit more of governance than anything else. Even that can lead you down the foundational aspects of things, and so I think that would provide a lot of value to whatever organization, because when you're coming in entry level to cybersecurity, you're going to have to learn, right? Whether it's SIM technologies, EDR technologies, you name it, you're going to have to learn it. And so having the foundations is really what it comes from. So do you think Mercer really provided that foundational aspect of like networking and operating systems and kind of the full spectrum of, hey, you're going to see this, you're going to see that, play with this a little bit, play with that a little bit, this, that, and third?
Oh, for sure. They really just let you sign up or register for whatever classes you can fit into your schedule. I took a web programming class to better learn web applications and just like how those are from a different perspective, from the programming side, like JSON, stuff like that. Um, Lots of operating system stuff, lots of networking stuff. And I think the environment Mercer provided me, I was very fortunate to have a really good amount of peers and professors supporting me as a woman in cybersecurity. Um, my sophomore year, that professor I was speaking so highly of, shout out Dr. Yerby, he's watching this. um, he provided me with a scholarship for a woman in cybersecurity and showed me WESIS. I didn't even know there were organizations that were so catered and focused to women in cyber.
Which organization was it?
It's called WESIS, so WIC.
Oh, WISIS.
Oh, is it WISIS?
Well, I don't know. Women in Cybersecurity is what it stands for.
Yes.
I got a lot of friends in there, so yeah, it's definitely an amazing organization. There's a few others out there too. Hacker and Heels, which if you're not connected with Stacy Champagne, Micaela, please connect with her. Connect with Hacker and Heels. They do amazing things for women in cybersecurity. So, all these organizations are out there, regardless. And so, I would love to see more of that. And I'd love to see what those organizations can do for you, because even though I'm connected to a lot of them, a lot of the people I'm connected to and what they do are already further up the food chain. They're already been in the industry for so many years, and we're like, oh, we need, more. So let's develop this organization and do all these things. So I'd love to see how far your growth takes you through those organizations.
Yeah, I'm really excited. There's just technology so ever changing, and this industry moves so fast. I'm really excited to just like learn more. I'm learning how to create a Kubernetes cluster right now. I know
Kubernetes. I don't even know how to do that. You're on a whole different playing field than I am. I don't even know how to do that. But it's funny because like learning how to do all these different things, has it changed kind of your avenue and approach as to what you want to do within the industry? Because let's start with, what are you doing now as an intern within Siemens? And again, you said you're learning how to like build a Kubernetes cluster, but what all does that job entail, right? What are you doing currently as an intern?
Yeah, so that also includes I'm learning about how to really spin up EC2 instances, which is an AWS thing, take them down, deploy an application and a single application in a Kubernetes cluster. That's my goal, a 3-month goal. This is a super long internship, so I have like multiple goals I have. But yeah, that's one of them. Spin up a cluster, take it down.
Is that all through Terraform?
No, it's really right now I'm using it. I'm configuring this cluster using VS Code, which I'm not super familiar with.
Right.
Yes.
So VS Code is the application to write the code, right? I love VS Code. It is probably one of the best right now. I don't care what anybody says. I personally think it is. However, with that, you have to be using a particular language. So are you utilizing, if you know, Terraform or Ansible or what programmatic stance are they using, or language are they using to stand up and shut down those? Do you know?
So I haven't gotten that far in the LinkedIn Learning course yet.
So Terraform is if it's HashiCorp, it's probably Terraform.
Okay, yeah. I will say, I know I'm creating a namespace. It's I'm learning about YAML. It's like, it means yeah ain't this ain't markup language. It like I swear it
Yeah,
has the
yeah.
word "ain't" in
It
it.
has
It's
a
crazy.
weird acronym. Yeah.
Super weird name.
It's one of the two. It's probably, if you're using AWS, it's probably Terraform, but it might be Ansible. It might be something else. Terraform is more in JSON format, and it is you can use it for Azure, AWS, and I believe GCP also. But if you look up HashiCorp when you get the chance, in Terraform code, that's where a lot of your cloud infrastructure comes from. And I used to know who he is, and I can't remember for the life of me. Anonymous is here, and he always preaches the cloud because, all hail the true cloud. But it's yeah, Terraform is something that I'm not a fan of JSON format code or YAML for that matter. It's not my type of structure, and so for me, it's harder. But if it helps you get better and if you're able to learn it, then kudos to you. Keep at it and be the best that you can be at it, because that's really what it comes down to, is just finding your niche and finding what you love and growing from there.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I will tell all my young friends who are still in college, internships are super important. They have turned a lot of concepts I've learned in college upside down on its head.
Mm-hmm.
Which yeah, it's been a really strange transition. For example, I'm learning how to write corporate project proposals, proper ones.
Yeah.
And in college they always tell you meet this word count. You have to write a 3,000 word essay. In the corporate setting, write it as short and sweet as possible. No
A
one
lot of
has time
military
to read
stuff.
all that. Yeah, like no one has time to read all that. Like write it as short as possible. Done right.
I had so there's a few different ways to go about doing things. Your technical documentation should be to the point, but also, and again, this is just my experience, longer. You want your screenshots. You want fully detailed, like write it as if you're writing to a kindergartner how to do things step by step by step by step, which ends up being 500 pages instead of the 2 pages you could have wrote it in. When I was in college, I had a few, especially when I was going for my master's, which I never got, but I was going for it. And I had a few classes where it was like, oh, we want 10 to 15 pages. I can write this in 2. Like, I'm not good at fluff. I'm very, very bad at fluff. But then I had others that were like, get your point across, make it valid, make your facts stand, and have a leg to stand on. I don't care how many pages it is. And so I had one teacher have to give me a B on my paper because it was only like 4 pages. He recommended 10. It was only 4. And he was like, look, you did it a B work. B work. Like, this is not an A paper. I'm letting you know. I was like, when I mess up, he was like, you missed out on 3 different points you could have made. Yeah, you're probably right. Probably could have added a little bit more.
Yeah, I do not miss assignments. I only graduated like this past May, but life is so much better without all that to worry about.
Yeah, I do think that no, Ryan, I'm never over a B. And no, I don't have my master's. The Army moved me before I could finish mine. All right. Webster University didn't have an online program. Do you want to do a master's? Coming from Ryan. Oh, Ryan is in the house. Micaela, do you want to go for your master's?
Okay. So to be honest, not the biggest fan of school, but if a company is willing to pay for my master's program, I will 100% go get it eagerly.
Yeah, I do think so. Like, the problem I had with my master's program is it was all, nothing was hands-on. Nothing. It was all theory based. The one instructor I had that actually taught us the technical side of things We didn't have technical equipment. We didn't have computers or things like that we can do, that we could work with. So that's how it was my forensics teacher. One of the best courses, I think, if I could ever do digital forensics full time, um, I would probably do it if I had more knowledge. But he taught me so much. Um, the rest were just theory, and I was like, I know the theory. Um, I don't want to write papers just to get a degree, and that's all it was. If it was more technical, it would have been more fun and a lot easier. But papers for a master's is what I had. You may have a different experience. Find a better school that'll get you certified. It's my opinion. I don't. I don't like school at all.
Yeah, that was a huge battle. My senior year, I was texting some alumni like, "How do you like your master's program? How do you like it?" So many unfulfilled. So many answers were just, "It's very unfulfilling. I feel like I'm just back in school typing papers again." So yeah, it's really. I want to pick carefully, I will say.
Yeah, it is. It's very much when it comes to school, you have to pick and choose. All right. So for anybody breaking into the industry, anybody that wants to get into the industry, understand you're going to have to transition one way or another. I prefer the school of YouTube. It's more technical and it's free. However, some organizations that you may want to work for still look highly upon a degree. So if you're going to go for that degree, then look at the school itself. What are you going to gain from it? And if it's just theory and foundations, then are you look, if you're not getting your hands on a keyboard, I'm sorry, you're missing out. That's where you get everything. Natalie here, I love Natalie. She's another, I'm a huge fan of Natalie. She is a queen in her own right for SOC and GRC these days. Technical schools are good for entry level folks. I love technical schools. I wish more people would do technical schools. WGU. So Owen put it in the chat. WGU is another one. Western Governors University. They do certification training and everything else like that. Very hands on. Difference is, I don't know if that goes for a master's program. So do you go the Ryan route of getting dual bachelor's degrees, or do you go from a bachelor's to a master's? If your bachelor's is in something like, I don't know, maybe IT, maybe basket weaving, who knows, and just go, I want to get a master's degree, what route do you go? So I think it's intriguing. What are your thoughts, Micaela?
Yeah, it is interesting. It's because you're still paying for this school at the end of the day, and you want to get your money's worth from it. Um, Luckily, my college was very technical and hands-on, so I think that's exactly what I would want for a master's program. Um, at the end of the day, it's really what your capabilities are, I would say, what you have time for, because I think most, or as far as I know, so Mercer has cross-listed courses that are both for undergrad and masters. I sat in a classroom with some master students
Yeah.
at some point, and I would just hear them, yeah, I worked 9 to 5, I'm here. Or because the master's courses, the cross-listed courses would be at 7 p.m. So personally, that sounds crazy because I feel like I'm being so challenged at work in a good way, of course. Like right now, I'm being challenged to the
Yeah.
best of my abilities. And then
Yeah.
imagine going to class at like 7 p.m., like right after that. It's a lot. Um, it's just a lot in general for somebody. And I don't know. A really good piece of advice. So there was a cybersecurity panel at my school a couple of months ago. This guy, he broke into cyber. He's 50. He broke into cyber at 50 years old. He said it's never too late to start over.
My dad
And
did too. My
yeah,
father did too.
super cool. He whipped out these heavy ass CISSP books. Boom, just slammed them on the table. And what he said is this industry is really about finding how you learn and rolling with that,
Yeah.
because you're going to have to learn every day. And so I feel like a master's program for me would just be another project almost I would just be taking on.
I mean, so here's the one thing that certain organizations are good at, are feeding off of how you learn. Certain schools are the same way. And I have this issue with the education system as a whole, on how kids are taught, because everybody learns differently, right? Some kids are more visual, some are more, you know, you know, I could read a book and just know it. Some people are whatever. Me, I've always been more of a hands-on learner. If I can't touch the equipment, if I can't do the work, then I'm never going to figure it out.
Yeah, me too.
And I think a lot of cybersecurity people, even IT people, are the same way. Saying that, there are people within our industry, there are people within IT that are able to read a book, pass certification, and they become paper chasers, right? They can read and memorize everything in a book and get a certification, but when it comes to doing the work and being hands-on, they can't, because all they know is a mile wide, inch deep, and actually some of them, they might know 2 to 3 miles wide. Who knows? But they only ever get that inch deep. They can never do the work, because if you ask them to, well, they've never touched a keyboard. They don't know how. And so when you talk about, the 50-year-old that transitioned to cyber, my father did the same thing. But me and him had a conversation. He's not good on keyboards. Good enough. Love him to death. Knows enough to be dangerous, but not enough to actually excel in the career field. So he went into GRC, and he has done great at it, and really taken his career to another level. Love him for it. But me and him had that understanding that when shit broke in the house, I was the one you went to. If you couldn't hook up your surround sound system, it's because you went to me. And even though things were color coded, you couldn't figure it out. You went to me. So when it comes to your hands on a keyboard, I know you got your certifications and you're really good, but Dad, you couldn't break into a computer if the lock was open.
One
Love
of
you to death, homie.
I will say one of the most brilliant people I ever went to school with. He was a technical wizard, like God at it. Did not care for school at all. Like literally,
No.
all this man wanted to do was pen test, do CP or CTF competitions, and at the end of the day, just hack away. But could not care less about showing up to class. Like I saw him in class maybe once a week, but brilliant person.
So for all those out there that think you need, look, for all those that love school and are good at school, please go do it. Go. You can get a lot from school if you can afford it and pay for it and actually get the education from it. I graduated college with a 2.67. That's what I graduated with my bachelor's. It was a 2.67. C's get degrees? Like, I don't know what to tell you. So GPA doesn't matter. I went there. I did great at the technical courses, but anything that wasn't technical, I didn't care about. Never showed up. And if I did show up, you were lucky if I was paying attention. I graduated in 04. Or no, got my degree in 09. Graduated high school in 04. I'm dating myself now. But I just was not a fan of school. For me, it was just a bunch of useless stuff. But it isn't true anymore. The older I get, the more I look at things. I think we need to have technical schools that have things like, especially in cybersecurity, psychology needs to be a course. Mandated course, psychology. Not philosophy, not calculus, not a bunch of other stuff. No. Psychology and technical writing. Because psychology will allow you to understand how attackers think and how to play off of that. So you can think like an attacker, whether you're blue team or red team. And so, and even GRC, I think psychology is very important into our career field. But I think it needs to be ingrained within technical school. So if we're going to look at schools as a whole, I think you get rid of calculus, you get rid of English and writing journals and all this other stuff for reading, and just do technical writing. And then you do your computer courses. And I think that sets us up for success a lot more than anything else.
Yeah, that seems to be an industry wide I want to say opinion because some speakers that were brought into some of my classes, another cybersecurity professional, like decades of experience, also said psychology should be incorporated in
Mhm.
cybersecurity programs.
It's
Humans are always
crazy
the
what
first
it does
ones to
for
make
you, though,
mistakes.
Michaela. Did you take
Yeah,
psychology?
yeah, psychology.
Did
Yeah,
you
he's
how'd you how'd you like it?
so it was a class I had to take for an elective
Hmm.
for my like just for College of Liberal Arts
Yeah,
purposes, but it was really interesting. I knew things that my peers didn't because you have the option of taking psychology, sociology, or like econ. Some people took the
yeah.
econ route because they're good at
I
math.
think mine was psychology. Actually, I took psychology in one college, philosophy in another, because I got an incomplete in psychology because I didn't do their experiments at the end of the year. And I dropped philosophy after like 2 weeks because he asked us the same question for 2 weeks and kept saying we were wrong. So just kind of like, all right, I ain't taking this course no more. I don't think I took econ, but yeah, continue on. It just brought to my attention psychology. Yeah, psychology's fun. I like psychology.
Yeah, just for I think the elective it was just called like social sciences. You had to pick one of those three. I chose psychology, and first of all, it's just a fun class in general. You get to learn about really weird things about how babies work, stuff like that. But for the human mind aspect, it was really interesting to see a different perspective because so many people, I will say, in this industry are just very one track minded. Um, they will think a certain way, but will not. But you need to think multiple ways, especially in cybersecurity.
Yeah, yeah. It's so you got to look at it this way, right? Psychology helps on multiple fronts. One, as you come up within your career and you gain experience, you're gonna have to deal with people at different levels. And when you understand how the mind thinks, and you understand how people think, and you can really have those discussions, you can break things down differently. Having that experience of psychology, you're able to go in and talk to a CEO on their level because and make them really make your ideas their ideas. And that's really what it comes down to is in order to get things done in this industry, you have to make what you know is right somebody else's idea. It can't be yours. Because if it's your idea, then it's just a business executive or somebody just spending money, and they're like, "Well, why am I going to spend this?" Whereas if you can take your idea and make it theirs, then they're like, "Oh yeah, this is we're going to do this because it's for these reasons, and I'm right."
Yeah,
And
make it think they came up with it.
exactly, like that's really the trick to it all, right? So I'm gonna bring something up right now that I saw on LinkedIn earlier. We were talking about it a little bit, Michaela, before the show. Actually, I was talking to Devin about it. I don't think you were in on that conversation yet. You hadn't joined. Um, Change healthcare for the first time ever, and I want your opinion on this because you're just getting into the industry. So I want your take on this, and then I'm going to give my different side of it. Maybe might be the same. Change healthcare. The Senate passed out or sent out a um, letter, memo, whatever, saying the CEO and the board need to be held accountable for the breach, not the system, which is the first time I've ever seen that for me personally, that the CISO should not be held accountable. It should be the CEO because they hired somebody that should not have been in that position because they had never held a full-time cybersecurity job until they took that position in 2019. So they'd never been in cybersecurity. It was a handshake, good old boy system. Here you go, homie. You got the job. And then they got breached, and all these hospitals went down. Finally, something might happen, right? It may, we may not. You never know. But it's being brought to light. What's your take on that?
It's hard to place blame on one person, especially during a breach, because I feel like cybersecurity is everyone's responsibility, everyone in the organization. But what I will say is the CEO is always the big man that approves all decisions. And I know companies really struggle to invest in cybersecurity tools and those resources necessary to protect their systems and
For
services.
people.
Yes. So, what I will say about this is I know CISO turnover is crazy in general. Is or at least that's what they taught us in school. In this industry, people get fired a lot, and I think it is safe to say to place blame on that CEO just because he's the one making final decisions all on all of that, and he is ultimately the one responsible for everything that happens in the organization.
So my take on this is this: the CISO is always the fall person. Male, female, doesn't matter. CISO is the fall person because a lot of these CISOs do not have the CEO and or the CFO or whomever sign off on the risk, right? It's the CISO signs off on it. But here's the problem with that. The CISO doesn't even have a seat on the table. They report to the CIO or the CTO. They're not even at the table to make their opinions heard. They got to report to somebody else who then reports for them. So not only do you have an inexperienced, somebody that's never been in cybersecurity person that is apparently at the table. I don't know. They got chief in their name. Whether or not they report to somebody, it was not made known in the article. However, even if they were, they didn't know shit. And I guarantee you, they signed their name on everything. Yep, we're going to approve this risk. We're going to accept this risk. We're going to da-da-da-da, all the way down the line. For anybody out there listening that is growing their career, as a CISO, you do not accept the risk because you don't make the decision on whether or not money is spent. The CEO, the CFO, the COO, all of them do. And if you're at the table, you make them sign off. If you're not at the table, your CIO signs off and accepts the risk. Then it's not your fault.
Interesting. Is that the case in most companies? The CISO doesn't get a seat at the C-suite table.
And a lot of them, not all of them, but in a lot of them.
Interesting.
It's changing, just not the way it should be, not as quick as it should be. Kind of like anything else in this world, it's not changing at the rate it should. And unfortunately, we are still seeing in this industry and in the world where just because you have chief in your name, it's chief by title, not by job. You're not at the table, you're not at the board, and it is a handshake. It is a hey, I love you, homie. Come sit here. Come, I'm gonna pay you, $250,000, $300,000 to make decisions on security for us, but you're not gonna have any input in everything. But I love you. You're my brother. You're my sister. Whatever. Hey, here you go. Even though you've never held a security role, too many people do that. Never had the job in security, but they got friends, and those friends give them those positions.
Yeah. Something that's been a little scary, just like leaving college, is under the table hiring. Um, it's everywhere. Under the table hiring, as in there are jobs that need to be filled, but they're not being posted on LinkedIn. They're not being posted on Indeed. They are. It's really about who you know.
So
And
I will say this. I love who you know for entry level. I love who you know to kind of get that salary marker that you want and kind of get promoted and move up through the ranks. The only time who you know should happen for CISO is if it's who you know because you've been in the industry long enough to know better. It should not be who you know. That role should never be who you know because my brother needs a job and he just got laid off from being a professor in basket weaving. So we're gonna give him a job because he needs it and I'm friends with him. Like, no, homie, that should never happen. You want to give your friends a job, you give the people you've networked with that have been in the industry, that have been doing the job. You give the Stacy Champagnes, the Natalie Bakers, the Leonardos, the Ryan Renees, you give them people a job. You make them your CISOs because Natalie's been in the SOC and been in GRC and can run an organization's security program. You give her a job and you say, you know what? I know she can do shit. I know she knows what she's doing. Let's give her this chief information security officer job because I know she's not going to sign off on things. the CEO is, the COO is, the CFO is. Because when Natalie says things need done, it gets done, or guess what? You're signing off on the risk. That's the type of person I want. I want the people I work with every day to get promoted, to have those opportunities. I want the people that have gone through school to get into organizations. So I want you to be pulled into a full-time role based on who you know. Because I know that's going to happen, right? You know me, I'll promote the shit out of everything you do. Like, yep, we want her. Yep, hire her right now. Anybody comes to me, yep, you want Micaela. Hands down.
I'm a huge fan of internal lateral hiring.
But
Great.
here's the problem with that. And this is, look, for anybody watching that pulls the trigger on finances, that chooses what people get paid, realize this. A promotion, if it is not for $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 more a year, they're going to walk and go work somewhere else. You are not paid a pension anymore. You're paid a 401k. And they buy in. Well, cool. I can take that 401k with me anywhere I go. So I don't need to stay here because you're not the one paying me when I leave. When I retire, you're not paying me. It's not a pension. I believe in personal loyalty, not brand loyalty.
Oh,
because
that's
the
what that
company
is.
doesn't care if you leave.
Yeah. That was interesting. I didn't know 401ks were just like boop transferable. Like,
oh yeah, you can literally take a 401k. So now, mind you, I'm that guy that has always cashed out his 401k when I've left organizations because I need the money because I'm moving. But yes, you can literally roll your 401ks over into your new organization to wherever the new 401k is coming from. That is completely possible. But unless your benefits are really that great. Look, I will always, Natalie, shit. I got you, girl. My benefits are awesome. Unlimited PTO. That's all you need. Yes, CW InfoSec, the tax hit on pulling out your 401k is horrendous. So if you can avoid it, don't do it. But if you roll it over, you don't take a tax hit. Just some FYI. Roll it over to your new organization.
I am wondering, because my TikTok algorithm is different from other people's, older people's, my generous. Yeah. But at least the career side of things I always see is switch jobs every 2 years. That's how you maximize your payout. Switch it. So that's always what I see.
All right. So they're not wrong. But I won't say every 2 years. I won't. There are, how do I put this? There are great ways to maximize your worth, right? So if you're with an organization that pays based on percentage, right? Your raises are based on percentage and or promotion. If you're not getting promoted every year or 2 years, and you're only getting that 3% to 5% raise, sometimes yes, sometimes no, then yeah, leave. You're going to get $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 more leaving for somewhere else. However, you're with an organization that actually cares about your pay and is going to pay you what you're worth, then they're going to give you thousands of dollars more every year. Hands down.
Like, I'm already sad thinking about at the end of this internship leaving the team I've grown a relationship with. I don't know. I've just never been surrounded by that mindset just because both my parents are actually both in the IT industry and they've been with their companies for 20 plus years. So in my family, company loyalty is a foundation principle. At least I'm the first child entering the workforce out of all my siblings. But yeah, or at least that's my perspective on it.
So yes, my dad's the same way. So age 37, I've found personal loyalty because companies, as much as some say they care about you, the moment you leave, if you're not paying me a pension, you don't care about me. You care about the job and you care about the numbers, and you see me as replaceable. If I were to pass away tomorrow, you're going to replace me as soon as possible. It's not going to matter to you. Whereas when people care about you, it's a whole different can of worms. So I understand where they're coming from because my dad is the same way. But my dad has also been moving up within his company and getting, the raises that he deserves. Granted, I think he still deserves more, and I told his boss that just last week. But it's one of those things where we got to look at it from a standpoint of in IT and cybersecurity, you can get more by moving than staying. I'm not against staying. I think if you love where you're at, if you love what you're doing, if the company takes care of you, great. But if if your raise every year does not equate to even the cost of living raise that goes up within our country, then why are you staying? Inflation, cost of living, everything went up, 8 whatever percentage over the past year. If you didn't get that same raise, then now you can no longer live at the same means you were. If that makes sense. Like
Yeah.
that's how I look at things. Like if I can't live at the same means and I got to cut costs because everything else went up, but you didn't give me the raise that can still support that inflation, then why stay?
Yeah, I think that reality will probably hit me in the next couple of years. I'm a fresh grad living at home with a mom and dad who doesn't force me to pay
Stay at
rent.
home. Stay at home.
They feed me. I know it was definitely maybe naive of me to say, "Oh, let's just all stay with our jobs," but
I
yeah,
am
I
I am
do
a
see that as a
huge
reality.
I am a huge proponent. So look, there are different cultures throughout the world. And growing up in America, we all grow up with leave as soon as possible and get out and be on your own and do all these things. Nah, stay at home. I did for the longest time was like, I'm gonna kick my kids out at 18. There's the door, go to college or get a job or whatever, fend for yourself. And then I learned. And then I really started to look at life and look at what's going on. And I was like, nah, stay home. Stay home. Because you'll do more. You'll be able to move up. I'll still be able to advise you. You can give to the household. We can give to each other. I'm still going to provide. You're going to provide. And now we're doing even better. Now things are getting better. And so as opposed to making people broke because they can't afford rent, they can't afford a house, now you're living here. And now I'm paying the mortgage. I'm paying whatever. Homie, as long as you get a job and can find sustainable, find a way to sustain us and we can work together, we'll farm, we'll do whatever to the land, we'll fix things up, then cool. The moment you quit supporting the household, that's when you gotta go. That's
Fair.
literally when you gotta go. Then you're gonna learn. And you're gonna learn hard way. And then you're gonna come back and be like, I had it so good. Yeah, you did.
Yeah, we're really fortunate enough in this industry to be making so much more money than most people in America are. Um, Very lucky people, at least at Siemens.
Yeah, yeah. And so I think, and so because the talk has come up and a lot of people have been in chat, Natalie, Sean, a lot of people, early on in your career, and they're right, you get more of a boost in salary, more of a boost in job title, in prestige, and responsibility and everything early in your career by changing jobs. The later on in your career you go. So when you hit management or lead or principal or whatever, then by staying you get more. Is it always true? No. If you work for certain organizations, you're never going to be a CISO or a security director because people will stay there forever. They can, right? Once they hit that point, where else are they going to go? Unless some company offers them more for the same role. So you'll find the higher levels tend to stay. The lower levels, it's a lot easier to move for more money. I'm talking, and I'm not talking chump change. I'm talking like 30 grand a year to go from a level 1 to level 2 somewhere. It happens. So the earlier you're in your career, the easier it is to jump, make more money. After that, yeah, 2, 3, 4, 5 years will eventually become the norm, if not permanently. And it also depends on your age. At a certain point in time, if you're not going to go into business for yourself, it just becomes better to just stay where you're at, which unfortunately is where I think the gentleman you were talking about and my father, that's kind of the position they're in, where they're like, I can feed my family. I got food on the table. I got my mortgage paid for. Why leave? Like, I got everything I need. So why leave for more? So I think that age is a factor as well.
I just also want to take this in a different direction. As a person who's a completionist, I know projects in this industry take years sometimes to complete, just improvements upon improvements. And it's like, I can't imagine. It's like you're so close somewhere. Yes, it'll take 4 years, but then how do you just like that's probably what people do when they're hopping every 2 years. They're maybe amidst a bunch of projects and then they're just like gone.
Yeah, and again, you're looking at a difference of contracting space versus MSSP versus organizational. MSSP space is going to give you that feeling of never being done, because you're always going to have a new client. You're always going to be doing something new. You're always going to be doing something different. Organizational, let's just say you work for a school and you're like, okay, I implemented X, Y, and Z. Now, until the next big security thing or security tool or the new blinky lights come out, you're just maintaining. If you are looking more for a constant movement, constant pivot, and constant learning aspects, I look more at the consulting MSSP space. If you're looking at, I want a job and I want to be able to move up with an organization, that's the organizational space. But you're also looking at a difference of funding, because organizationally, security doesn't get funded the way they should.
Mm.
But an MSSP or an MSP, well, that's their whole job market. That's their whole premise of security. So it's a little different, and the pay scales are different. So,
Yeah, a really good piece of advice my programming professor told the class, because there's always ways to improve your code. You can never stop improving it, but at some point you have to put it down and turn it in. You have to stop.
Yeah.
Submit it. Like, that's just the reality of it.
Well, this is why, like, I am in certain aspects, but I'm not in others, a perfectionist. There are certain things in my life that have to be perfect. When it comes to code, does it work? Like, literally, does it work?
If it works, great.
Yep. Cool. Ship it. But I can make it faster. Dude, that 0.5 milliseconds isn't going to matter. Ship it. Go. And then they find a vulnerability. Then you got to fix it again. That's when you fix it again. But if it works, it works.
Yeah, that was something in my cloud security class. The professor was so anti-cloud. He was just like, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But I feel like it's time to innovate. Innovation is cool.
We've lost innovation, though.
How so?
So, one company, it could be a variety, one company will innovate. Everybody else will replicate. So you make your choice. Do you want to innovate or replicate? You got to get lucky to innovate. Replicating is easy. AWS came out before Azure for GCP. But then the iPhone and iPod came out before the Zune, which failed, and a bunch of other things, MP3 players, all that. So the Windows phone, the Google phone. Now, granted, Google and Android and iPhone are still fighting to this day, but you get one chance to innovate. You get multiple chances to replicate. So you either be damn good, and Natalie says it here, be really good at innovating, like Steve Jobs was. Now, whether or not he came up with the idea and somebody else implemented it, whatever. Anonymous, I love you, homie. If you have a choice, be an innovator or replicator, and I think we have lacked innovation for a while. Me personally, because it takes years before we innovate. Everybody else replicates it and tries to make it better, but it takes
For
years
the money.
to actually innovate anything. It's all about money. Everything we do is about money.
Yeah.
AI, ML, LL, UEBA, throw whatever acronym and terminology you want on it. Most people don't even do it. They say they do, but it's not. They don't understand it. The difference between artificial intelligence and machine learning, between large language models and everything else. They don't. User analytics, they don't get it. So these terms get thrown out there. Are we truly at a point of having artificial intelligence? You tell me, Micaela. Do we have any AI truly out there?
No, I do not think actual AI exists. Um, it's all pattern based. It's all pre-embedded. It's all configurable. I don't think there is real AI out there. Some of this AI is so weird. I am very intrigued by it personally, but like for example, a really good point my director made the other day, which I've always noticed as well. If you ask AI the same question 10 times, it'll spit out 10 different answers because it's just trying to create what it wants to output to the user based on how it was configured.
To this day, AI is meant to be a silo. It will give you the answer eventually because you're going to say, oh no, let me ask it again. Oh no, this is the wrong answer. Let me ask it again. AI is going to wait till it gives you the answer that you want and accept. Look at, and again, everything in AI, because it doesn't actually learn right now. And if it does, it can still be worked around. Gives what it is programmed to do. So, for instance, and again, I don't know if this is true. I have not done the research. Just know, people, I have not done the research. I don't know if it's true. It is social media posts I've seen online of certain AI engines will twist things to fit narratives. So if you put in, hey, I want an image of a certain area or a certain persona, it'll give you that, but it'll change its skin tone or it'll change something of it to match whatever. I'm sure we've all seen this. I think it was Google's AI that they were coming out with. Give me Viking age, whatever. And they were all black, to put it bluntly. Now, you could have given a variety of races and colors and whatever because, Viking was a job, not an actual person. But it was all the same. Again, whether or not that's true, I don't know. But it just goes to show that if it is true, AI only takes in what it's programmed to do. So if you program in bias into AI, then it's going to feed that bias.
Yes, I did experience AI generated image bias in this class. We it was a international I'm an international relations minor, super random, but we
Love
created
it.
a yeah, love learning about different disciplines. We made this survey. It was about media framing, and we asked AI to generate three different images: a peaceful frame, a violent frame, and a neutral frame. And funny enough, for the peaceful, so we asked it to like picture an image of like armies fighting. The peaceful side was blue, and they made the violent one red. And a really good point in our project presentation that got brought up, the professor asked the question, do you think political bias was built into the AI? And so that's just another way to show another viewpoint of
Yes and no.
there might be some bias in AI.
Oh, there's definitely bias in AI, but in that context, I can say no. And the reason for that is when you look at marketing, right? And I in my psychology class, we talked a lot about marketing. We were talking about psychology earlier. Red is a violent color. Red has always been a violent color, right? When you think of violence, blood is red, right? Even though we know in our veins, or at least should be
Sorry, I
taught,
just
in
saw a
our
Halo
veins, blood
comment.
is blue, right?
Yes.
That's why your veins are blue, because until it gets oxygen, it's blue. Once it gets oxygen, it's red. Peace and soft blues have always been a more peaceful color. So, in your context, yes and no, right? Could that bias be brought in and say, oh yeah, the blue because it's this side of the aisle is always peaceful, and the red because it's this side of the aisle is always violent? Could you bring that context into it, and could that affect how people think? Yes. However, I think that it is more based on how our minds view things. Blues and soft blues, especially, and actually a good example of this was in Scrubs, the TV show. The janitor wore a soft blue jumper instead of his old one, and all of a sudden he was getting hugs and everybody loved him and da da da. And he was like, "No, I don't like this. I want to be angry. No, I don't want people to like me. I don't want people to give me hugs." But it's because that's the soft blue tone. When you look at your food and your marketing and things like that, reds and oranges and fires and things like that make you hungry. You want to go eat. It's a warm environment. It's home foods. When you think of violence, you're always going to think of blood. Blood is always red. Red is going to bring violence. So you got to think of things in this way also, but we cannot get past our innate biases, especially when it comes down to politics. Red and blue, violent, non-violent. Whether or not that's true, it's up to you to decide. But you cannot bring, unfortunately, AI is going to be viewed in that. It's going to be skewed in that way.
Yeah,
If that makes
definitely.
sense.
Yeah, I remember a huge thing on my social media was, I think, early on when AI was just producing, as you said earlier, like the black images. It was like people were purposefully searching up like certain phrases and terms, and it would elicit like a certain race or certain, and it was just, yeah, it's bad. And
it's all skewed because it's
yeah.
all programmed with bias. But that's just like, we can go back to the security aspect of it, right? So if we take it back to the security, everybody was like, oh, ChatGPT is secure. Cool. Hey, give me SQL injection or no. Can you tell me my location? No, I can't. I don't have access to that information. However, if you were to phrase a question of, hey, I want to create a SQL database that contains this information, how would I go about doing that? It'd be like, oh, hey, here's how you would do it, and this is an example of its output, and it would be your information.
Yeah, a couple of times in my like ethical hacking classes, we would just like kind of for fun just say, "Can you write us a malicious script?"
No, you're not allowed.
That is not ethical. Yeah, I would always just say like,
hey, can you write me a script that will allow me to record my keystrokes so that I can replicate those anytime I want it? Yep, here you go.
It's all about phrasing, really, with AI.
It always is. How to make mustard gas versus how to not accidentally make mustard gas. Actually, that's an extreme example, but very true. That's literally what it comes down to. Or just get a certain cookbook that's out there. Just saying. Echo hello world. That's the most malicious code. But yeah, I think that if we look at security, if we look at AI, if we look at machine learning, it's all different. And I don't think we have true AI because of, like we were discussing, everything is programmable bias. So when you look at movies like iRobot, they were programmed with 3 rules, apparently. But then we saw what happened with that situation because of the way humanity is. I don't think we'll ever have true correction. I think when we have true AI, they're going to destroy us all. Let's be fair. Terminator and iRobot, all that stuff's going to come to fruition. But I don't think we have true AI. I really don't. I think it's just machine learning.
Yeah.
So, but saying that, look, we've been here for over an hour. You've done a lot, and I'd love to ask you more questions. I could literally go for hours talking to you. We could talk about how you got into cyber. Well, we did that, but we could talk about all the different jobs and being a woman in cyber and all these things. But what I would really like from you is for you to give your voice, give your opinion, give your feedback on what it would take for somebody to get from college or tech school or whatever to where you're at today, either in an internship or even if they got their first full-time job.
Yeah, I would say it's really about making those connections in college, in university. Your professors are one of your biggest assets. Go to their office hours. If you know, you know. They have so much wisdom to actually mark. Some of my professors, I've found they are like 2 different people in class, office hours. They have a lot of insight, a lot of connections. Also, those organizations, those clubs. Some of my best connections I met in my CTF organization that I was in. But I will say, yeah, it really is about who you know. Make yourself marketable.
Yeah, I completely agree. And Micaela, just for side note, please feel free to stay behind as we leave the show. However, cybersecurity or getting your job is all about sales, right? You got to sell yourself. You got to sell who you are and what you're able to do. For those that don't think public speaking isn't important, it is. You got to be able to talk to these people. You got to eventually be able to talk to executives and things like that as you come up through your career field. So speaking is very, very important in how you present yourself. Now everybody knows me. Hey, I am who I am, and I'm not going to change. But I do present myself differently based on who I'm talking to outside of this show. And everybody knows that. But the knowledge still remains. So saying that, present yourself, sell yourself, know who you are, know what you're about, and network, network, network. That is the only way, well, not the only way, but the easiest way you're going to get anywhere within this industry. Now, saying that, I love you all. You're all my warriors. You're all my family. And I have loved having this chat with you all. Please come back next week for another amazing episode of Security Happy Hour. I promise you, Cyber Warrior will be here live, 7 p.m. Eastern Time every Friday. Y'all take care. Have a great one. And I'll talk to you next time.